Okay, so I want to take a few minutes to talk about part one of our project. Okay, so in part one, we're just basically going to write a survey question, and then in part two, we'll all respond to each other's survey questions. Okay, so you want to think of a question that you want to ask your classmates. Now, very important, this question that you think of, it must only have two possible responses. Okay, so yes, no, right? That's a good type of question, like a yes, no response type question. It doesn't necessarily need to be yes, no. You could have, for example, in our second example in the instructions, I said, is the computer you are currently using a Mac or a PC? If you respond to that yes, what does that mean, right? So you would respond to that, I'm using a Mac. So you say Mac, or I'm using a PC, right? So it doesn't necessarily need to be a yes, no, but it does need to have only two possible responses. Now, if you're using a different type of computer, you would say, well, that question is not applicable to me. So NA, you can have a catch-all NA response, okay? Not all of your questions are going to need an NA type response, but if you do need that, your question may have that type of response as well, okay? So you can have at most, I guess, 3 responses, but the third one has to be just an NA type response. So it's really only two possible responses, okay? So, for another example of an NA type response is if you're asking a question that's geared towards only girls, right? And then the boys might say NA because that's not applicable to them, right? So that's okay to do that type of question, okay? Once you have thought of your question, then go ahead and go into Blackboard and go to Course Project, right? Part 1. And you're going to want to submit your course project, Part 1. So go ahead and press on this link. Okay? And then you just basically need to fill out this form. Okay? So I would type in my last name, my first name, my survey question. I'll go ahead and use it for the first example. Have you ever, been on a soccer team? What was my first question? Have you ever been on a soccer team? On a soccer team, okay? And the responses to that would just be yes, no, that's okay. So the survey response number 1 and survey response number 2, because there's only 2 possible responses. So the students will either click yes or no. And then does your survey require an NA? You basically, if it does or if it doesn't. In this case, have you ever been on a soccer team? That's applicable to everyone, right? Everyone can respond to that. So go ahead and say no, doesn't require an NA type response. Press submit. Once you've submitted, that's it, okay? And you've finished part 1 of the project. Very, straightforward. Don't overthink this. This is going to be it's a fun way to get to know each other, right? So don't overthink your question. Just go ahead and just think of a yes, no type question that you want to get to know your classmates and something that you're interested in, okay? So, and then once you've submitted that, no need to submit another response, you're done. Just the one question, that's good, okay? If you have any questions about this project, or actually any questions at all, right? We always remember about the Q&A discussion board. Post your questions there. I would love to see anything that you're thinking about. Even if you just want to say, is this a good question before I submit it? That's fine. You can post it to the Q&A discussion board and we can talk about it there. No problem. Okay. I'm really excited to see what questions you guys come up with, and please again try to be creative with this. Have fun with it. And in part 2, we'll be basically responding to each other's questions. So make sure you try to think of something that's fun for everyone to respond to. And then later in the semester, you'll be analyzing the data that you're collecting here. So make it something you're interested in. All right, and have fun with it.